So good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for attending a session of Revit Radio. This is our first one after the 4th of July, so we are here on July 5th, which took me off guard. Wasn't even thinking about it. Last month we did do it a week late, so we didn't have quite as good a turnout because, I messed with the schedule, which I always hate when people do. But we did do it live from the Built conference, which was a fun thing to do. So I didn't record that one, but we did have Sasha with Autodesk and Scott Davis with Autodesk on as well. So it was kind of a fun little event for me. And for those of you who don't know, because I do see a lot of new names here, Revit Radio is all about you asking questions. So you just get to sit there and type in the questions and I attempt to answer them. My answer might be, I don't know, especially if it's an MEP. I might be calling on some of the other people here who might know MEP or not. But just you ask the questions, and we do ask that you put those in the question and answers pod because it's so much easier for us as a team to go through and sort through the questions. But by all means, the chat pod is there for everybody to heckle or do whatever they want to do. Heckle, comment, tell me there's a better way to do it, etc., and things like that. So again, this all comes down to you guys asking questions in the question and answer pod and us attempting to answer them. So I was going to go ahead and start with a couple things, and I am going to remember to share my screen this time because last time I got like pretty far into it. Somebody's like, "Where's your screen?" So I'm going to share my screen here when we get into this. But the one thing I did want to point out when we getting into this is I got to go change it because I can't see. I hate the part of Zoom that does this. Zoom hides behind the other dialog boxes. And there's Melissa. I knew she'd be here. Where the heck is the? Here it is. Good afternoon, Melissa. How are you doing today?
Hi, good. We've been having an issue where our work computers are like 3 minutes off of everything else. And I was thinking it was early, but it's actually behind, so sorry. we're 3 minutes late on the work computer.
We just started. I thought your computers were just overheating since you did have no air conditioner for a week or so. I thought your computers. No.
I have 2 temporary units right now that I just turned off because they're loud, but it's nice in here right now.
So they couldn't fix it, so you get temporary air conditioning units. Nice.
Yeah, it was broken again, so the guy's supposed to be coming today to replace something on the roof. I don't know.
Who knows? All right, so I was just going to show some of the users. I did teach 3 sessions at Built Conference list last time. One that I actually liked a lot, and I think this was the one you introduced me in. You gave me the introduction for, Melissa. I don't remember which one it was, but I did one on global parameters because I'm a big fan of global parameters. I like them a lot. I don't think a lot of people have really found a use for them. But one of the things that I always like to get into, and I think I had this one in this file as well. Shoot, I didn't. See how that works, and I thought I had it in here. But one of the ones that I actually like to do for global parameters, and I'm going to start a new project as I'm talking, is turn off for plot. So I came up with a global parameter a long time ago where we had this one called turn off for plot. Maybe I did actually upgrade it. Let's see. Yeah, I did. So what that means is I have a lot of content in families that whenever I wanted to turn them off, right, I'd go into edit type, uncheck the category for visibility, and turn it off in the entire project, and I'd go through and start doing that. So when I started going in and doing this, I started realizing, like, I have this little thing here. It's just an internal document, this internal link. It's just got text on it. It's also got notes value. So if somebody just wants to put notes on the screen, you've got notes, and you can also do a hyperlink. I got a lot of my structural engineer clients who actually put like links to the PDFs of their calcs right next to something, or spec sheets or whatever else, and just things that they were thinking of. But we don't want this text always showing up across the screen when we go to print. Same thing would be true like on our sheets, right? So on my sheets, I might actually have a title block. And with this title block type, I might have nice little layout lines to help me do some different layouts. So historically, what I did was go in and edit the type of this and uncheck the little dialog box here for turning off those grid lines. You'll see in this example, I have it associated to a global parameter. So what's cool about this is anything that I have, if I go into my global parameters, and I've got to move this Zoom chat screen somewhere else. If I go into my global parameters, then what I can see inside of here is I've got this little checkbox for turn off or plot. And when I do that, it turns off everything I've associated. So I've got little guide boxes like this on all of my details. I've got them on all of my sheets. And yeah, this can take some time if you've got, a few thousand sheets on a project or anything what's going on for that. When you get into it, but it will go through. I can hit the little checkbox, not have to worry about it, print the dialogue, and then turn it back off. Or if you synchronize Revit beforehand, just close Revit without saving. Completely on what you want to do there. But I've got these little layout lines to do that, but I don't want those to print. As we all know in Revit, there's no such thing as a no print, right? And even in my little project startup view, you can see that little icon that was here. It's still there. It's just all the graphics have now turned off on that. So I do that when I want to print, and then I go back and turn it on. I just used undo after my printing, and I got all of those things coming back on there. So any sort of scenario for something like that, that was actually, I presented global parameters, I think it was a few years ago. And Sash Kamidi, I can't pronounce his last name, formerly with ID8, who's now back in industry, was sitting up there, and I was talking about how we could associate this to visibility parameters. And he's like, printing, and him and I just looked at each other, and we were like, oh my gosh, we just needed to we worked this out and talked about this literally during. I see you guys saying my sound sucks, so let me find. See, I just got back, so I don't know where my headphones are going to be.
Oh, Brian just is echoey. That's just how he is.
Just how I am. Well, sometimes people say it's really, really bad for them.
It could be me because we seem to have problems when we both are on the same call.
Oh.
Here, I'll leave.
Oh.
Maybe that'll solve it.
All right, we'll see if I get this. So I basically, on the way, I took a week off on the way to the conference, and then I got home right before the 4th. So I really basically took a month-long sabbatical in June. So we'll see. Turn this on if it has power.
Okay, is that any better? Yes, no?
Definitely
hear me?
sounds different, but it wasn't horrible for me. So yes,
Okay.
yes, better. Good.
Yes, yes, yes. Although I hate hearing myself come through a headphone. I don't know why. It just, that's okay. Okay, so that was one of the things I talked about on the global parameters one. But the other thing for me is the whole session that I taught on this one was getting into, I had a client and they needed to basically, and this is my simplified example of this, but they basically needed to change the spacing on curtain wall mullions and either add reveals or take them away and have the spacing align with those, right? So if we were using design options for this, because that's what the question was, how do I do design options for this? I'm like, you literally copy the entire skin of the building. This was a convention center, not a small building. And you then duplicate it. And anytime you make a change in one design option, you got to do it. Obviously, in my opinion, that's not something that's acceptable, literally when all you're doing is changing the mullion heights. So what we came up with was global parameters. So in their example, we had a global parameters little dialogue in here that they literally had option A and option B. They only had 2 options. There wasn't 3 or 4 or anything like that. But this is what they had. So if I uncheck option A and I say, okay, what you're going to see is the spacing on the mullions are going to change. The height of the window is going to change. It's going to also add another reveal up here somewhere. Right. So when we went through and did this, all of those things needed to change and adjust. And it was a little bit more complicated. They had like doors and everything else for the real project. But what happened is if I go into an elevation, I think it's the south elevation, what I did is in one view, I started dimensioning these things. So I did a dimension from the level to the reveal, the level to the other reveal, the level to the curtain grid, etc. And then when we did inside of there is we selected those dimensions. And just like in a project environment, you can come over to your little dimension and you can label it up here, right? So we created labels for all these. We placed a dimension, like if it was this one, came up here, labeled it, chose a label if it already existed. This one's padlocked, so it's keeping me out of it. And we went through and set this up. So what was great about this is now back in those global parameters, we basically just started going in and assigning formulas to it. So the mullion lower was the one that they could adjust. They wanted this at 2 feet, whatever. They've got the mullion upper, but you can see I started using a whole bunch of formulas. So if it's option A, the height between these two is going to be 8'7". If it's not, or it's going to be 8 foot. If not, it's 7 feet, right? So when somebody toggled the number goes from 8 to 7. Same thing for the window height. The window height was this distance subtracted by this distance. If they wanted to come change the mullion lower to be 1 foot and apply, not only is that moving this lower mullion, it's moving this obviously reveal that's in here, and then the height of the window needs to adjust as well. So boom, it's all moving. It's all doing those fun things that we wanted it to do. So it was kind of one of those things of, yeah, it takes some time. And on their project, Honest Truth, toggling from option A to option B, it probably took like a minute and a half because there was so much going on in the file, but it was able to just toggle that, then they could come in and print. Now, the other thing that is a downside to this scenario is I can't have this view on the same sheet twice because it is a single view and I'm toggling an option. So I could do it on 2 separate sheets, toggle out option A, print sheet 301, toggle option B, print sheet 301B, whatever it was going to be. So that was how I had to get set up, but it was kind of nice because again, all the floor plans and everything, nothing was reflected in that in this particular case. It was always just going to be all of this. And then we even started taking it a little further in the fact that I realized that text values could be associated to it. So I created a generic annotation family with just a text parameter in it. And then I linked that to a text field in my global parameters as well. So coming back to the global parameters, you'll see I have option text. If it's option A, put in option A, otherwise put in option B. And not only did we use it for this, we then started taking it to the extreme level of, hey, here's a door or a window. We can put in the comments, option A, option B, we could put that to the same thing, right? So we started going through and setting a lot of the data up for this. And even the height of the doors, the height of the windows, we're all going back to looking at these types of scenarios where we had a window type called, it was actually louvers, called 24-inch by global parameter, which meant if I went into the type properties, the height value was associated to a global parameter. And I think in this case, we also did type comments as well, just to kind of have both of our things covered. Once we started doing those things, if I go back to that 3D view, when we really get into that and start looking at it, what was really cool about it is that I then used formulas, or excuse me, view filters to color code things. So am I in option A or option B? What's going on here? So we color coded all of the windows to be different colors. So in their people's working views, they could actually go in and just tell if the windows or things that were there were A, they were orange or whatever, and if they were B, they were going to be pink. So we even took it to visual levels for people to be able to start seeing what's going on. You can see now pink or whatever color you want to call that. So that was kind of one of the things I talked about, and I really, really like doing this type of scenario. So kind of really nice in my brain on the global parameters is trying to get people to start thinking possibly of other ways to use them when they start getting into that.
Very nice.
So that was my spiel, and I see we got some questions. So
Oh, yeah, I have to chuckle though. I just got an email inviting me to be part of the AutoCAD Customer Council.
I literally got that right as this started too. I want to be part of the AutoCAD.
Oh, yes.
It's like there's something in the Autodesk marketing that is so screwed up because I keep getting like, hey, do you want to be part of the AutoCAD community? I'm like, guys, I haven't touched AutoCAD since 2004, almost 20 years. So just
Running away from that community. No offense.
yeah, just get me off of that mailing list, please. What kind of questions do we have?
I think we should go with Beth because she had a question about your title block family.
Okay.
So how do you keep the title block family size down with the sheet layout lines in there?
The sheet layout lines to me, it's gonna be in here. The sheet layout lines to me are actually a nested family. So if I go edit this title block, I actually have lines and pictures in mine. And I have several clients who do this, where this is a nested family and then a nested family. So I actually have my little detailed guide that I use for all of my 2D details. It's nested into this that then gets arrayed horizontally. And then I take that family and array it vertically into here. So this family has a nest of the guide that's arrayed horizontally. And that's nested in here to be arrayed vertically, depending on which type of title block I choose. So in this case, if I choose, not the 2 columns by 2 rows, if I chose 6 columns and 4 rows or whatever that said, I'm going to get something very similar, but it is doing this. But the file size is not that large on this. The thing for this was it's just lines, so it's not going to make the title block file too large. There's also then, I'm going to go turn on preview visibility. There's then also invisible lines behind the scenes. So there's actually an invisible line here if I tab to get to it. And those invisible lines turn on and off and move with a whole bunch of formulas in my annotation if I turn dimensions on. So I've got a whole bunch of dimensions down here, equally spacing things and turning things on and off as they go through visibility toggles based on those same numbers. And the reason these are there is so I can actually snap to those. Because unfortunately, I haven't found a way to embed a family that I could snap to. So again, if I come back here and turn off my preview visibility, you'll see all the other lines in there, but they're just being toggled on and off by, oh, you only have 4 columns or 6 columns. This one understands by its visibility parameter of, oh, I'm looking for the one that's sixths or thirds or quarters. So haven't really got into a lot of this. The file size, I don't think is that large. You know, maybe I'm lying on what you think is large, but again, the title block I'm loading into a project, but no one accesses and changes those values. They swap title block A out for title block B, but it's not affecting the performance. I've not actually ran any physical tests on that, but it doesn't affect the performance on this in any way. So if I go look at my title blocks, annotation, that's adaptive, not annotation. Shows you how old I am. Annotation used to be the first one under there. So like my 30 by 42 title block is 396 kilobytes. I don't know if you think that's a large family or not. I don't know why my 24 by 36 is larger. Probably had a different image in it. But yeah, so 396 is what mine should be. I don't think that's a large family in there. So I don't know. To me, I know having all those layout lines is just a line. It's not that big a deal. And then again, if I go into the title block again, you will see there are formulas for sizing the arrays, right? So I've got a row height and a column width, and then the value of those based on what people are typing in. So those come in to give me the orange boxes, and then these are all my formulaed yes, no parameters, because this line is there for sixths and thirds and fourths and whatever. So it actually just, hey, you've got to equal 2, equal 4, equal 6, and equal 8 to do that one. But no, 396 kilobytes I thought was fairly small. I think a lot of times people get into these, it's image size. So I'll bet the other one actually has my logo in it, which was twice the size. That's one thing I always try to tell people, especially if you start getting into using the out of the box title block and trying to do it, go into your manage and go into manage images. If you look at the out of the box one, they still have the original original Revit logo from pre-Autodesk. So you can get the old Charles River Software Revit logo out of here because it's still there. So that's one thing to me that I find is people like bring in one image, they'll delete it, they'll bring in another image. Oh, that wasn't the right one. They don't know which one's the company image. And then all of a sudden there's 9 images loaded in the title block. And that's usually what the one is calling out the issues.
Well, Dan was just asking in the comments if you had a write-up on how your title block works.
I can't recall if I've ever done it. I might have during another Revit radio before I started recording them, but I can't recall I've ever done this. If you guys want it, I will absolutely send it to you. Just email me. I don't care. I'll share my title block. It's not like there's anything crazy going on in this. I have had people ask me, do you make a parametric title block? So you can have one title block and switch it from 36 to 42. And the answer to that is easily no. Because trying to control where all the labels go and everything as it shrinks, it's not worth it. I do this, I do a save as, I move this stuff over 6 inches, move this stuff down, and then I just change the values change. And since everything is equally spaced or formula, it all adapts. Again, then I've got to figure out, okay, where is that 6 inches, 3 inches coming out of as a project name? And so you've got a little bit of tweaking, but because of that, no. For a lot of my clients, I will say their cover sheet is also their title block or their normal title block. So a lot of times there's additional things over here that I toggle on and off for if it's a title block versus, or excuse me, a cover sheet versus a normal title block. So I do often do title blocks along with the cover sheets if they're similar enough. Like some of my clients keep all of this stuff here in the cover sheet. Some are like, no, that goes away. It's all gone. I don't want any of that. Then it's a separate title block. Yeah, Simon's like, yeah, I tried making a title block extremely parametric. And they went from 300 kilobytes to 5 megabytes. Yeah.
That sounds better. Yeah, some of those things are totally under the just because we can, should we type.
Yeah, and honest truth, I only keep these orange lines in here for my clients to see and understand. Most of them just get rid of them because they're fine with just having the lines they can snap to. So they're okay, and especially with the global parameters turn off rather than having this whole grid layout scenario. They're like, no, I just want to see the little lines. So we make those lines like the orange color, and the little arrayed family things are out of there. But I like to see, hey, this is where it should be going. This is where your view title should be going, etc. But that's just me.
We definitely just like it all over the place over here.
Yeah, and Radu asked, do we put questions on the Q&A? Yes, please. I know I was actually in a webinar the other day. Somebody's using Zoom webinar and they asked all the questions to go into the chat. And I'm like, you people are crazy. It's like, it's so hard to keep track of questions in the chat pod when everybody's coming in and asking things. Oh, I did see Sean said he uses global parameters. They use them for GERT lines that drive locations of GERTs based on the X or the Y offset on the piers, etc. Yeah, global parameters to me, I mean, this was just touching the base, even in the simple file here. I don't ever attach walls to the underneath side of floors. So this wall is not attached, right? The top attached is not checked, but you'll see it does come up to the underneath side of that floor. And if I change my floor thickness to be something different, it's going to update what's going on with that. And this wall is not going to stay short. It grew with it. The main reason why I don't do this, well, there's two reasons. One, 90% of my architects don't model the floors, structural engineers do. And if the structural engineer changes the thickness of the floor, I want it to update to theirs. You can't do that by attaching, but you can do that from a global parameter that's reporting the thickness of their slab. The other reason why I don't do it is if a wall is attached, its unconnected height doesn't change. So if I attach a wall to the floor, its unconnected height is going to be 12. So right, this one's unconnected height right now is 12 feet. And if I attach this to the floor, its unconnected height is 12 feet. That's what Revit schedules, reports, and does areas off of, right? Again, if I go change this now from that thin floor to a thick floor, again, this one's unconnected height is still 12 feet. But since I used an offset for the top, this one's unconnected height is 11. So I'm going to get more accurate takeoffs, quantities. And if I wanted to schedule these, I'm going to get more accurate schedules as well. So for me, associating the top offset to a global parameter works way better than attaching it to a floor. And this also assumes you're not using grouping. But so yeah, this one's got a crazy thing. And the other theory on this one is, right, you can see that I've got my wall cut out going into the floor. Well, if I delete that, then the gap is still there, because if my structural engineer did it, but I want to cut my wall out for the floor, this is a reveal that's also associated to that same global parameter. So I have a reveal that's using a profile, and notice I just call this floor assembly, and it's using the profile called floor structure. I'm going to undo deleting that. But if I come down here to my profiles, in my profile, I have got the one called floor structure. And guess what? Its height value is mapped to a global parameter. So as the thickness of that floor changes, that reveal changes. So I can still cut the void out of my floor if I wanted to, even though that floor might be coming from a structural engineer model. And if they change the thickness of it, my reveals update as well. And Simon's like, yes, we have problems with materials exporting correctly. Yeah, it's because your Revit uses the unconnected height for all the material scheduling. So there you go, top offset, Simon. You're good to go. Melissa, do you guys use global parameters much?
No, we've got a few ideas kicking around, but some of them are, dependent on later versions of Revit. Since we're still building the template we did finally retire 19, so not 19 anymore.
Yeah, I decided years ago to do mine up to 20 when 20 came out. I'm like, screw it, I'm just going to 20. Like 21 came out, I'm like, I'm done with 19. And now I'm about
actually ditching 20. I think we're
to
21. So we're
I'm on that fence now of, okay, do I upgrade it to 21 or 22? Because all of the new, especially all the new family categories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we've made 21 our base this year. Now 23 is out too. So, but we do have a kind of, well, not necessarily follow-up about shared parameters and global parameters. But the question is, do you need to use shared parameters to help bridge parametrics between loadable content, such as title blocks and the project where global parameters live?
No, you don't. So when we looked at like my example of the window, that's using a system family parameter of height, right? So that one I could obviously map to. But any parameter you create, like you can see all these parameters that I've created that aren't width, depth, rough width, etc., out of the box ones. Any parameter you create, global or non-global, we'll let you, excuse me, shared or non-shared, we'll let you associate those to a global parameter. So something as simple as like my little profile family, there's no way my profile family has shared parameters in it for sizes. I mean, maybe I should be doing that because, you know, in some release they'll say you can start scheduling the values of or tagging the values of profiles. Cool. We're not there yet. So none of these are there and I can still just associate it. So all a global parameter does is push data to another parameter. It doesn't care if it's a family parameter, a system parameter, a shared parameter, a new in 23, whatever the hell they're calling it parameter. What are they calling those? I forget. Insert. What are they calling it? It's a manage tab, not insert. Shoot, I don't remember. I know there's a button on here somewhere to create parameters from. Where is it? Oh, it's under manage. It's right where I was. It's under manage and it's now the parameter service parameter. Doesn't care. That's new in 23. So it doesn't care what type of parameters. All it is there is, hey, I am pushing data into a value. So now the question that always comes up a lot too is, well, do I need to create a shared parameter so I can schedule that? Again, you're not doing anything with global parameters other than pushing data to something. Now, with that said, in filters, you can filter things based off now of global parameters. And so like here you say, I've got a filter called Windows GP. If I go look at this, you can actually say, is it associated with a specific global parameter? It just pisses me off. I just can't say has a global parameter. I have to specifically say, is this value of this family category associated to this specific global parameter? So if I had like window height level 1, window height level 2, window height level 3, I'd have to go through and check, create a filter for every single one of those. This or this or this or this. I can't just say is associated to a global parameter. So that one kind of irritates me, but yeah, you do have that in filtering for views. I believe schedules even have that as well. That's not a schedule. I don't know why I'm right clicking to hit edit. I don't know why I just did that. Filters, height is associated with, yeah. So you can also associate it with global parameters. But again, it's specific not to any global parameter. So hopefully that answers the Anani Mouse question. So what else we got here?
Hopefully. Oh, Sean has a comment that scheduling in 22 is reason enough to skip 21. That is true for you. If you're going to, you might as well just go.
Just go if you're going to 21. Yeah, see the difference, Sean, is we create templates that we give out to clients, right? So Parallax does that, BD Mackie does that. We create templates that goes to clients, and the clients like, nope, I need this in Revit 20. We've got to have stuff that we can, steal from our templates to push into their templates. And if you do it all in 22, then you're like, dang it. Yeah, Simon and Sean are both like, just the shared parameters and scheduling is like, yeah, I completely agree. No, all the projects I personally do, which isn't a lot, but yeah, the second the new release comes out, I upgrade my projects and try to take advantage of them. I have actually several clients on 23 already. When it came out, like within weeks, they're like, yeah, we can do this, this, and this. We're upgrading every project.
Some good stuff.
Yeah.
I think a big part that helped me convince Aaron to be done with 19 was the enable filters. Because we have so many filters in our templates, and it was a matter of, well, we want these in all these, but these clients might want them in other things, and it was always a giant pain to move them around. And now we can just put them all everywhere and just not enable them.
Just not enable. So am I the only one who keeps coming in here? And it's like, I'll be like, the visibility's off. It's like, man, I wanted this off. And I'm like, wait, I'm turning it on. Why is this not working? And I keep forgetting that there's a new column here. And I'm just like, oh, shoot, it's this one I should be toggling. Or yeah, I'm like, turn on, God damn it. Why aren't you turning on? Yeah, I was doing that the other day, getting really frustrated. It's like, what? Oh, I'm a moron.
You need a vacation.
Yeah, probably. So yes, but no, there's just, every release, there's always these great new features that we can start taking part of, and it's kind of like, why aren't we using this yet?
Yeah, and that is definitely part of the sad part. If you are on the beta, you start seeing some stuff that you're like, that will be so, oh, I can't
Oh,
do anything yet.
yeah, you go back to your project. I want to try this on my project. Oh crap,
That
that's
will
right.
be
That
so
was in a
perfect for,
that was in a beta. Or I love when you're testing in the beta and you finally get to a project that's on the new release. You think it's in the new release, but it was still in the beta. You're like, oh, that didn't make it yet.
so sad.
All right. So what other questions do we got here?
Well, here's a semi-random one. Michael's asking, any idea what log4c plus comes in with? It's messing with the Revit 2023 deployment. It's referenced by Autodesk 360, but that's not installed on my test machines that are complaining about it. Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, I have no idea. Log for C+. Yeah, I got nothing. Is it like an app that runs in the background? If I go to like Task Manager, is that running in the background? Oh, that's taskbar.
And
That's not what I clicked.
I would ask Aaron right now, but he snuck out to go see Top Gun.
And this is now recorded for posterity.
I know he does actually leave. I can still ask him though.
So it's not an application that runs.
It's
Yeah,
just-
I got nothing, Michael. I have not seen that. Don't know what it is, and I don't play with deployment. I play with one client for the deployment, but they're fairly simple. It's just simple deployments, replace the INI, and we're done.
that
So I
is-
got nothing for you, Michael. I will Google that later though, just because I'm going to be curious.
and I'm writing it down on my sweet old-fashioned parallax notepad to ask Aaron.
It's a simple to use C++ logging API.
Fun.
There you go. That's all I got.
Simple to use, but it's apparently annoying some computers, so that's fun.
So what's the next one?
Let's go with some mechanical families. So
Yay.
I know you're very excited. So I noticed mechanical families will show up in the legend with view set to ceiling. However, when I place the light fixture into the legend, there's no option for ceiling, only floor plan. Are there any workarounds?
Yeah, don't use legend components. Legend components are horrible. I personally do not use them. I don't know what the parallax theory on this is. I personally do not use them because if it's a face-based family, you can't even play with positioning. It'll come in rotated 90 degrees in your legend. So like I have one client, they went through and created all their toilet accessories and they put them in a legend. They're all rotated sideways. And they're like, oh, we'll model it the other way. And they tried that, still came in sideways. There's like, don't know what it is about legend components. You can't tag them. There's just so many things with those. So a lot of my clients either just draw lines, literally they just go draw lines to represent what they want it to be and they call it a day. Or I have other clients, and I don't know what you guys do this, but we literally modeled. So if I come over here and switch this to the what I call the legend phase, this is everything that's been modeled. And then these are my components for legends. I know some people do these as design options and they just don't make it. They make a primary design option that's empty. And then there's a legend design option that's there. I personally do it in phases. Doesn't really matter, however you want to do it. But then this is there. So if I literally come over to my stuff and I go looking at my legends, it's like if I go to the door legend, here's the overall floor plan for the doors. And then these are views, pendant views that go onto every sheet. That way I can tag them for the proper frame type. So somebody came in and said, oh, this is no longer going to be frame type F40. I can actually rename the family type and all of my tags in the project update, including my legend. And then you'll see I even have elevations for all the door legends, one for frames, one for leafs where I just turn off the appropriate things. And again, now I can tag all of those and it's always going to be live to the real model. Legends you can't tag. My legend my door leafs are face-based, so I can play with them and do some weird things with them. If you try to place those in on a legend, then my door leaf on a legend, new legend, they will come in like sideways, always, no matter what you do. Like I'm looking at the thickness of the door, not the front, the back, anything. So if I go in here and place legend component, annotate, legend component, So I don't even know where the tool is. I so rarely use this. If I come down here to doors. Plus, I hate just doing it this way. So if I go turn on a leaf, say like leaf type G, okay, that's looking at it from the floor plan. That's cool. Let me look at it from the front. That is not the front. Let me go look at it from the back. That is not the back, but it's modeled properly in the family. This is a front and a back, but it just has this in and of itself in the leaf types. I'll go edit one to show you. Families, doors, leaf type. I think I chose G. If we go edit this, it's proper, right? When we open this up and look at this in Revit in the floor plan, the front is the front, the back is the back, right? Front and back, here it is. But the problem is I checked work plane based. And if you check work plane based on this, it just, Revit doesn't care. Legends are just like, nope, don't care. Not going to show what you want to show. Or if you're creating a face-based family, basically the same thing is true. So yeah, my answer to that is you can't do any workaround, just don't use it or draw lines. It's a shitty workaround, but it's unfortunate unless you know of something, but that's pretty much everybody I know, that's what they do.
No, yeah, the only time I ever actually use legend components is when I'm teaching the beginner, kind of this is what you can do, but most of us don't.
I use them for symbols, right? Symbols, they're great.
Yeah.
Hey, here's my standard symbols. Here's my section head. Here's my section. Well, that's a line because you can't see the entire section assembly, but here's my section tail. So I use them for all of my symbols. Sure. It does suck though, because like here, my view title, I've got to come draw a line and see what the line type is. And if I'm trying to do it for like walls, I'm screwed because I have filters that apply walls. So again, I don't even use it for walls. There's floor plans. If I come back over here to my legends, I probably have a code legend somewhere. Wish I knew where I kept everything in my own template. But yeah, so like here's mounting heights legend. These are real components, not things that I've dimensioned to. And again, the nice part is if I replace the toilet in this project, if I do a reload and reload a toilet, the new toilet will come in and update my legend. So my legend even has the right graphic look in the mounting heights as everything else. But I also have one for code. I don't know where it is. And the reason for code is I want to see the walls change their look based on the filters I have set up in my code view.
Yeah, we do a lot of those live legend things for that kind of stuff as well.
So yeah, so most people that I've found, they just have all gotten rid of the legend tool except for symbols, and it's just some sort of view either with phasing and or global, or excuse me, design options to do that. So hopefully anonymous, that answers your question.
Yeah, that's a work way around.
Yeah, the workaround is don't use them.
I'm sure they're hoping for some kind of actual, like, oh yeah, you just make sure you check this box here.
Yeah, most people are. They're like, really? How do I tag these? And I also thought it was funny because a lot of my, I had one client, the reason why I have it on my doors is he never before did a frame plan legend. But now he does. He's like, well, if we're doing these all live and I swap them out, why don't I do a frame? So in his documentation now, and his contractors are loving him, in his sheet, he's got the frame elevation, and right above it, he's got the frame plan. So they can see if it's has a double throat, single throat, whatever, double rabbit, single rabbit, what is this frame doing? And they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And his contractors are loving the fact that he's doing this. He's like, why haven't we done this years ago? Because I don't know.
Yeah, well, and I know at my old firm, there was people were stuck in that mentality of, you only show it once in one place and show it right. It's like, but in Revit, as long as it's modeled right, you can show it wherever you want and it's going to be the same information.
Yeah. And like, even for me, I think you guys have one of these too. Like, no, where's my other one? Oh, I must have pulled it out of the, well, no, I've got one that just shows the normal door information, and then in really small text underneath it, it gives you everything else.
Yeah, it's not your QA version.
I have one client, they put it on their projects because it's just such small text. Like, hey, on PDFs, contractors can zoom in. If not, who cares? They don't need to see it. So they actually put it on all their things, and it's like, they're like, we've got PDFs. There's infinite zoom in PDFs. So all of their stuff they tag with their doors. It's got what frame type is in there, what leaf type is in the door number, obviously, and then what's the fire rating on the door. They have all of that stuff listed right below each door. and that's just how they tag it. It's just teeny tiny text. So, but yes, the QA tag as well is what a lot of people use it for.
Well, really quick, we have a question about colored tabs.
Should Melissa take this one?
No, I think you should. I think you do well.
Okay. So this was the first time, and I kudos to the team on this one, the team, John, for this, is they actually released an update for the colored tabs before Revit was released. I got an email from John with Parallax 2 days before Revit was officially released. Here is our updated thing for Revit 23. So I use the Parallax version of this. Part of the reason why I like this over PyRevit, somebody at the question had mentioned, hey, how am I color coding these? I use PyRevit, it's not out for 23 yet, is they also have enabled view sorting. So I clicked this earlier when I was talking, because if it's not, and it's a Revit limitation, but if it's not, it'll just show the views in the way they've been opened. But damn it, I want all my views in the same project grouped together, or all of the same types grouped together. So I can check this enable view sorting, and it'll rearrange, hey, here's all the same project or family, here's all the same project or family, or here's all the same types. So you can color it by project or by view type, so your floor plans, your legends, etc. I use this one. There are some API limitations to the view sorting, so sometimes it just doesn't, it's checked, but the API won't pick up on it. So you do have to check it every time you open Revit. If you notice it, if you're on a project where you're only opening floor plans for a day, you're probably never going to notice. But yeah, so I use the Parallax version for this. I like it. It's relatively inexpensive, and honest truth, I think it's so, just the graphic having this up here, I'm pretty sure it's paid for itself in the amount of time it saves me just from trying to hunt down and look for the damn views I'm looking for. Hey, I need one of the red views. But yes, Parallax.
I do like being able to switch it over to do files too, so that if you do have like a family and a couple.
I do it by project 90% of the time, because rarely am I ever in one project. I'm at this client's file open, this client's file open, I'm editing 5 families at the same time. It's kind of like, oh, okay. So mine is almost always by project. But again, if you're just in by view type and you're in one project, you can kind of start to see that you'll see like all floor plans, like all the 3D views are this color. All the floor plans are this color, etc. So it's kind of nice when you get into that too.
I can.
Oh, that's good to know, Michael. I did not know that. So Michael's saying that there is a pre-release for PyRevit, but not quite as straightforward as normal install. So it's like a beta release for PyRevit for 23, but not a simple installer. Like, hey, so we're going back to the original days of PyRevit. We had to go in and manually drag these files into this folder. And
Well, since we're doing that, Dan's asking what your favorite add-ins for Revit are and any that you use every day. So.
Well, that answered the first question, because I know I always have color-coded tabs. And every time I open up Revit, I have to click this stupid button due to the UI limitation, the API limitation. So that one I use every single time. For me, I use a lot of different tools. It just depends on what I'm doing. There was a while where I was using the CTC software family loader tool, like 3-4 times a day. And what this will do, there's 2 options for this one. One is like reload all the families currently in this project from this location. I have never gotten that into work. I've talked to other people like, yeah, that doesn't really work. But what I've used it for is I was working with a client where we had like nested families into nested families into nested parent families, and those were then loaded into the project. So, and this was me developing it as they're using these tools. So it's like, oh, cool. I just rechanged this bolt hole configuration that's been in these 30 families. So you can just create actually TXT dialogues of all these families. Okay, reload this into all of these. If it exists, cool, it reloads it. If it doesn't, it's done. And I was using this constantly for like 3 months when I was creating this content, like 5 times a day. Haven't used it as much lately, but I still use it. Like when I upgrade to a new version, like from 21 to 22 to 23, I then say, hey, reload all of these nested or these families into these families. So they could potentially be nested like my doors. I go in and say, hey, reload all the leaves and the frames into the door assemblies. So I can push them all. So if somebody hits edit family and edit the door leaf, they're not pulling it from 2019, they're pulling it from the correct release. So I do use it every time I upgrade. So that's one that's a good one. And that's one of their free ones too. They've got a lot of cool tools, but that is one of the free ones. I use the DI Roots tool when I'm creating a lot of content. I use the parameter manager, where is it? This one. And it just allows you to see all the parameters in a family, or you can export the parameters out to Excel. It's like there's, again, the same client I was using CTC. It was like, oh, I needed 15 parameters called whole spacing 1, whole spacing 2, whole spacing, whatever it was. So I exported it out to Excel, copied the lines down to get it all done, rebrought it back in. I just created all 20 of those parameters with all the same data. Theoretically in 23, you could right click and say duplicate, and it'd be a little bit faster. But before it was like, oh, I had to go create it. Remember what grouping I was putting it under. Remember what, you know, all the things when creating it. So yeah, those are tools I find useful. And then I use the Ideate software tool a ton. And this is actually seems expensive. And if you're a 1 or 2 man shop, it is fairly expensive. If you've got like 10 employees, you buy 1 license, it's not that big of a deal. But the Ideate software, the Explorer and the Style Manager, I use at least 5 times a week between the two. I've literally used Ideate Explorer today 6 times. So those are the 3 that I use a lot. There's some in add-ins, like I know Revit has a really cool hatch tool, but I paid many moons ago for Hatch Kit. I don't know if you guys have ever played with the Hatch Kit. There is the, which one is it? I gotta remember, it's been a while since I've been in this one. It's the quick fill. Is it this one? I think this is the
22 myself.
Yeah, but this one I love. Okay, I need to go create a brick hatch pattern. Okay, I'm here. I don't want herringbone. I want, you know, stagger bond. I want it to be this size with this gap. I say, okay, I'm done. I can literally create any sort of tiled, staggered, non-staggered hatch pattern, stretcher bond, whatever you're looking for. I can create any of these with whatever like gap overlap, whatever spacing overlap in seconds, and I'm done. So like if you're an interior designer constantly trying to create tile patterns that are like seconds, it's literally seconds to do this. And I think I paid $200 for this many moons ago, and it was good for like 8 years. And then they said, oh, we recreated this and we need to have you charge another $20 for this new version. Cool. And I know there is a great one in Revit, but you still have to go draw it. I do not have to draw here. So it's like, yeah, let's go in and do the stagger bond, and let's just come in here and say, oh, 3 by 8, but this is actually going to be 7 5/8 decimal, 0.625. And I want a gap of 0.375, right? And I want this to be, where is my stagger? 1/3, 1 to 3. There you go. I mean, you can rotate it, you can add dot. I mean, so many things you can do here. And this literally took 15 seconds to learn. And then the $20 upgrade, they gave us all these different shapes. So you can actually do hatch patterns, that's text, comment stuff. I haven't actually used this one. There's a whole bunch of values up here. I haven't actually used this one because I don't need this text, but I've used the, what was it? Was it the Fritz and the polygons? Oh yeah, it's this one. Somebody wanted dot hatch pattern, so I just created an 8-sided one and then played with all the numbers. So I got like the tile dot and the stagger and the spacing, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, you can go draw lines in Revit. That's a great tool. I still use that one for more complicated ones, but for the simplistic ones, the hatch manager, the hatch kit, it's great. And I love this. I keep telling John about this. How cool is this UI? Oh, this is the main tool you need, but if you want additional tools, we'll let it slide out. But now we can collapse it.
I think he has been looking into that.
Yeah, I told him this about like when they first came out with this, I think it was in 22. I'm like, John, seriously, look at this, John. Look how cool this is. Look, just look. I want to just click this button all day long. Just look. Just look. Oh, and then, well, by the way, there's settings down here too.
It is definitely good. Do you ever use the View Filter Manager?
What'd you say?
Do you use the View Filter Manager?
I have used it a few times under add-ins. Oh, I don't have it for 23 installed. I do have it down here in my 22. I guess that's a project. Yeah, so the View Filter Manager I have used actually on yours and Aaron's recommendation. I did get this one exotic client where we had like, 35 view templates they wanted something added to, and I'm just like, yeah, they're paying me hourly to do this, but I don't want to sit here for 4 hours doing this.
Actually spend
Just no. So on the I don't use this often. Where is it?
Yeah, it's not on there either.
Uh, it is under add-ins, right?
Yep.
Huh. Maybe it was so long ago I purchased it and used it only in 21. I don't remember, but yeah, it'll actually, oh, this is a cool one too I gotta talk about. It will allow you to go in and edit, add view template, modify view templates by adding view filters or copy things over for it. Yeah, it's cool. And then this one is really, really cool. I don't even, this was on somebody in Revit Radio user posted this up there. So if I go to my recents here, what's really cool about this is look at all my families. They are all watermarked. All I have to do is open a family and save it, and it becomes watermarked. And how that's happening is there's this tool up here called the Express Family View Bar. No, not that one. The Express Family Stamp. And the Express Family Stamp, you can say, hey, I want an image. I want text if you want text on it. And I want the Revit version, whatever else you want to do on here. And you say, okay, that's it. And when you open a family and hit save, you get what you saw in the preview. So yes, all of this. What's cool is I send this stuff to my client and I can either watermark it with their logo or mine, it doesn't matter. But when I do that, then I can tell if somebody else has edited it really, really quickly, because in the Windows preview, I can go in and see it because it shows up there too. So 2020, if I go into view, let's go into like casework. I know these ones have all been upgraded. It even shows it up here. So I can just start cruising through and be like, oh wait, why doesn't this one have the logo? Somebody saved it. Was it me? So it's kind of actually really cool for that. So yes, but they don't have that one out for 23. Last time I looked, but I also took the entire month of June off. So well, between conferences and driving and working off and on, it wasn't the entire month, but.
I just sent you the screen capture of the view filter manager. Oh, in Teams.
Oh, in Teams. Well, I was ignoring my Teams chats. Yeah. So there it is. You can actually see here's all like the views you have, and I can apply view templates or just filters to it, or I can edit view templates. I haven't used this as much as you guys do because I know you guys have about a bazillion filters and view templates.
It's usually the override, so it's nice to copy across. So if you make a change to the override.
Yeah.
That's probably what I use it for the most.
Yeah, so it's really cool. Like I said, I got into it with one client, and I really got into it. I'm like, man, this was great, because I think for them it was like they had, I think this client like 75 view templates, and they brought in a linked file, and they had to go turn something off on the linked file, and it was like, oh, okay, I need to go add this to all 75 view templates, and it was like, here we go, let's pay the $99 for this, and I did it in like an hour, as opposed to like I think it would have taken me like 4 hours had I not been using this tool.
Good one.
Cool. What was the name of the family manager tool? Which family manager tool? To load and unload families?
The CTC one.
That's what I was wondering. If you're talking about the load and unload, that was CTC. It's part of their BIM batch suite. You just go say download the trial, and after the trial expires, the free tools will stay. So I think that's when, if you're talking about the family watermark stamping, that was that one is in the Autodesk App Store, and it's called Express Family Stamp. They also got this thing here called the view bar, which lets you see all the views you have open. Well, it's probably not open in 23, which I thought this was going to be really cool, and I downloaded it and tried it. Not a big fan because it takes up so much space, but it kind of shows you, oh, here's the level 1, here's the north elevation. It just, not sure, wasn't a big fan of this, and maybe it's because I'm not into projects where I have 1,000 views open, but wasn't a big fan of the view bar.
Probably would have been cooler before tabs.
Yes, agreed. Okay, so we got 4 minutes. One more question.
Well, we've got to call out for coins auto section boxes. I did use all the time before the selection box tool was part of Revit.
Yeah, I know a lot of people still use that, and I was kind of the same way. That I didn't use the auto section, but I had something else that was different. But once we got the section box button, it just goes there and it brings it to you. And yeah, and I know, Sean, a lot of people are like, yeah, but it's still not the same. I just really like it. But it's
You can tell it how far to extend past and just give it a little more. You can give it more love than just cropping to it.
yeah, I wish these were things that like there was a setting in Revit or the API that you could go in and say, hey, this has an API. I wish, not the API, excuse me, the INI.
You wish that you could make the internal tool just be like coins on a section box.
No, I just wish there were settings that you could adjust. Like when you turn on a crop region, and the annotated crop region is always 1 inch away, or 25.4 millimeters, because it's freaking based off imperial units. So, but having that just be able to go in there and say, hey, I want this always at 1/2 inch or 3/4 of it. I wish literally in the INI, there's something in the program saying, hey, your annotative crop region should be this big. I just really want that to be able to come up and say, oh, here's your setting for that. But it's kind of like there's an INI setting for structural foundations that you can have them show up dashed or not dashed underneath floors. There's an INI setting for that. So why can't I have other INI settings for other things like, how big does this unsnap, etc.
Yes, section cut. Yep, the view would be nice. Yes, I do agree with Sean and Jen that coins is better. And then if I were doing more production work still, I probably would go get that loaded. But since right now I'm doing a lot of template work, it's not been as big of a deal.
All right.
We do have the one last question on keynoting. So what are your thoughts on keynoting? What are the pros and cons of building a keynote text file for a firm and implementing? And what are some workarounds you've seen utilized?
So keynoting, either you love it or you hate it. Most of the clients I have that are using keynoting, it's larger firms. And part of the reason they love it is they can actually take that external TXT document and on the server, lock it down so only certain people have the right to change it. So it's more of a tool of, hey, I can just go on the floor plan, the detail, whatever view you're looking for, and I can go keynote this element, right? There is a type property associated to each element for keynoting. Edit type, right? And we've got the keynoting down here somewhere.
Up.
Oh, right there. And this, like I said, does point out to the keynote file. Yeah, I keep getting this. Somehow I've lost my keynotes file location, but regardless, I keep getting this on a whole bunch of stuff. But regardless, is then somebody would go choose to the keynote file which keynote they're using. But that file is linked to an external TXT document. So you have to go edit that TXT document. Now, editing that TXT document is a pain in the ass. You're going to probably try to open it in Excel. Then you're going to save it, then it saves as a CSV, then you've got to overwrite the TXT. But if somebody was editing the TXT at the same time, you've now overwritten what they did. So if you are a person doing it, I suggest going to Revolution Design and getting their Keynote Manager. It's an invaluable tool if you're doing it. It makes editing the keynotes even better. You can see here's all the keynotes here. You can go edit the files. You can go into the Keynote Manager and do it. You can also reload, have them reload automatically, because that's the other problem. Is if you're doing this manually and you change the keynote file, you've got to come up here to, I think it's under Manage, Keynotes, reload the keynote file. Because saving the TXT doesn't reload it. Opening Revit doesn't reload it. You need to freaking manually reload the damn thing. So it's kind of a pain, but a lot of clients, like I said, do like it. They can lock it down. They can have somebody do it. And also, a lot of the times, people editing that keynote file and the words in it aren't Revit users. They're the spec writers. So they can go in and do all the spec writing type, et cetera, inside of there when they get into it. So again, just depends on your prospect. My biggest downside to it, and I show this in all of my detailing videos, is you cannot add additional information. So if you come in here and you're like, hey, like I always show an example in the detail, I've drawn a piece of gypsum board on there, regardless of if it's in the wall or it's a detail item, but I want it to say on each side. I can't do that with keynotes. Otherwise, every time I tag gypsum board, it's going to say on each side. So there's no instance-based values to keynoting. So for me, it's a downside for that reason. But if you have clients like, hey, nope, this is what that spec number is. Here's what we're doing it. We're linking it directly out to, this TXT file. Only certain people have rights. It's great for that. My biggest downside is the limitation. The other thing I don't like is when I do see people doing keynoting. If you're using user keynoting, what's the point? If I'm coming here and doing user keynote and picking on an object and saying, cool, I want to come in here and keynote this, and I'm probably going to get yelled at. Oh, it did find it. If you're manually picking what you want this to be, common work results for metals or whatever, then in my opinion, you failed. Because if you're keynoting, you should be keynoting the type property of that so it can be set up globally and everybody's tagging the same thing. Like I used to have one client in the details, they liked the keynoting aspect. They would draw an invisible circle. They literally had a family called Invisible Circle, and then every single keynote would come off of that. And the reason why they did it is because if you keynote something and you move it sideways, the tag moved too. So in their details, if they moved a detail component over, and the tag moved with it, so they didn't like that. So they literally did element keynote off of an invisible circle, and that's how they tagged everything.
When did they add the being able to pin your tags?
I think it was in 19. So yeah, if you pin your tags and then move the object side to side, the tag stays.
Yeah, so that part at least got fixed.
Yes.
We did. So I spent a lot of time with keynoting at my last firm. Setup, if you're setting up kind of from scratch, can be a giant. I think it was probably 6 months-ish of mostly full-time work to go through the detail component library, the family libraries, get through the template and get everything tied to keynotes. Once it's done, it is pretty awesome that people can go in and just say element keynote, element keynote, element keynote. So those were the big things to keep in mind.
Yeah, and I have one client who does a lot of keynoting for materials. So then you've also, every time somebody creates a material, they've got to remember to go into the managed, or into the identity tab and associate keynoting there too, which is also weird to me that materials, you can type in text in Keynote. None of the rest of them, you can just type in a value. It clicks you have to browse to it. But in material keynotes, you can type in anything you want. Don't know if you ever noticed this. A material keynote, I can come in here and be like, I don't have to browse. I can just say stuff. And now I've got stuff. It won't tag properly. It'll freak out when you go to tag it. But no,
I didn't notice that because I wasn't doing it wrong.
The other downside is somebody goes and downloads some content from Joe Blow internet page, and now you've got to go associate your keynote to that object too.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I said, there's love-hate relationships I have with it. I think the biggest reason why people liked keynoting was because in a keynote schedule, you could filter by sheet. So I've keynoted.
Keyed notes.
Yeah, so you basically were doing your true keyed notes, right? So I could do keynoting and actually only put a schedule on a sheet that only has the keynotes on that sheet. Guess what? 2023, we can do that with anything now. Any schedule in Revit 2023, we can do that with. So this, to me, honest truth, is opened up a huge, huge thing in my brain, because if I can go into any schedule and I can go into my edit the filter, and I now have this checkbox for filter by sheet.
That is quite awesome.
I'm going to put a damn door schedule in every sheet. Why not? My contractor can see all the doors in this sheet, see all the door numbers off to the side, maybe every enlarged floor plan. I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. But if I can now filter by sheet and I'm not getting my list of 500 doors, it's just what I'm seeing on that sheet. Why the hell would I not start doing this to make the contract?
Ceiling, you can do ceiling schedule and
everything. I could now schedule everything and filter by sheet. So, I keep going back to, I think I closed my sheet. Everybody puts those lists of like general notes on the sides of their sheets. Do we still need all general notes, or can we now have a little simplified door schedule, have a little simplified this? So all my contractors now go like, here, I don't need all the door data, but I can have one that's got all the door information and the type of door. I can have all the ceiling information and the type of ceiling. Of course, that's will only be on reflected ceiling plans, but why not start taking advantage of that a little bit more?
Yeah, that's true.
But
I think just going back to keynotes a little bit more, another part that we really liked, even when people were using user keynotes, which is way easier when you're using Keynote Manager, by the way, because you can basically just set it to say, if I click on this, attach a user key, or you find your note and then say, whatever I click on, I want to attach this user note. So that's better. But at least you got to keep the nomenclature the same. So if you had one master list you're coming from, you don't have somebody saying, this is 2 layers of gypboard, or this is 2 layers of gypsum board, or this is.
But so in my mind, you can do the same thing with that on a lot of things if you're using type comments and tagging type comments.
But that's also true.
Now,
so we have a lot of clients that use material tags instead of things like keynotes.
Yeah, and the material tags, again, I'm just editing the one material and everybody's gonna spell gyp the same way, not gyp period, gypsum, sheetrock, drywall, white stone crushed finely, whatever they're gonna call that gypsum board. The other thing that I did have, and this was way back in my Revit usage, probably back in Revit release 8, one client was using Keynotes. And the biggest reason was they could export out that Keynote schedule and give that directly to the spec writer. So their spec writer literally just had one long schedule of here's everything, regardless of if it was a detail component or what, here's every single Keynote we friggin' put on this project. And he really liked it. And they really did that way back in the day because that was before we could schedule detail components. So I could give you a schedule of all the furniture, the walls, the toilets, whatever, but you couldn't spec that out. But once detail components, they were able to start scheduling those. They're kind of like, do we still need to do it this way? I don't remember what their answer was, but that was the big reason for them, is because they could then Keynote detail components and get a schedule off of that too. And that is nice for the spec writers as well. But yeah, for me, like I said, it's a love it, hate it. They do serve their purpose. Like Melissa said, there can be some decent amount of setup. I have a one-man shop. He does all Keynoting. He loves it. He's a one-man shop. He does residential, high-end residential homes. That's how he does it. He's also the developer and the contractor as well, but he does it all that way. He loves it. Everything's set up. For me, like when it comes down to detailing, my biggest drawback on this is I can't add anything to it. It is what it is. You can never add any sort of value to that. And that's my biggest problem. But like I said, I have several firms who successfully use it and love it. And Michael did say, yeah, uses Revit keynotes for spec notes or general annotations for keyed notations. And again, up until recently, all my clients still use keynoting in Revit for keyed notations, where it's, note 1, note 2, note 3, note 4, because then they would just say, hey, all floor plans are note 100s, all ceiling plans are note 200s, or whatever they did. And then they would just filter by sheet and put them on there. So you might have keynote 101, 106, 107. They didn't care, but they were still on that external thing. So everybody spelt everything the same way. So, but it works. All right. Anything else groundbreaking, Melissa? I also didn't let you say what's some of your favorite. I mean, you did talk about the view template, but some of your favorite add-ins.
Oh, yeah, I think those are Keynote Manager, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely use PyRevit all the time.
Well, I used to. Now it's not in 23. So.
Well, I'm not in 23 right now either. So. Family Browser. Do quite enjoy Family Browser. And Pig, the preview image generator to clean up your thumbnails of all the families.
Yeah, I hope they look into getting the watermarking images like this.
Yeah.
If they had that, that would be amazing.
Yes, it would.
I know Aaron and I have talked partly on that, but come on, that would be amazing. All right, so we are 10 minutes over. I just looked at the time and didn't realize that. So thank you all for attending another wasting billable hour time on Revit Radio. We appreciate it. Tell your family, friends, coworkers, enemies, anybody you want about this. Students, if you're a person who works in a school, just tell anybody about it. The more people we get here, the more questions we get, and the better we educate all of the Revit users out there. With that said, I'm going to say goodbye. Melissa, you got anything else?
I think so. Happy late 4th of July.